Hello, I'm Kaiser, and welcome to Moose Reads. Before I get started, I want to say that the opinions that I give here are my own opinions. They are extremely subjective. If I dislike a book, it is not a reflection on the author, and it is not a reflection on people who do like it. Different people have different tastes, and that's okay. Today, I will be reviewing Leviathan Falls by James S. A. Corey. This is the 9th and final book in the Expanse. It is a sci-fi novel. The description says, "The Laconian Empire has fallen, setting the 1300 solar systems free from the rule of Winston Duarte. But the ancient enemy that killed the Gate Builders is awake, and the war against our universe has begun again." In the dead system of Adro, Elvio Okoye leads a desperate scientific mission to understand what the Gate Builders were and what destroyed them, even if it means compromising herself and the half-alien children who bear the weight of her investigation. Through the wide-flung systems of humanity, Colonel Aliana Tanaka hunts for Duarte's missing daughter and the shattered Emperor himself. And on the Rocinante, James Holden and his crew struggle to build a future for humanity out of the shards and ruins of all that has come before. As nearly unimaginable forces prepare to annihilate all human life, Holden and a group of unlikely allies discover a last, desperate chance to unite all of humanity, with the promise of a vast galactic civilization free from wars, factions, lies, and secrets if they win. But the price of victory may be worse than the cost of defeat. 4 stars. Mostly I liked this book. It's entirely in line with the rest of the series. The stakes are extremely high, and the characters are well crafted even when they are not particularly likable. In every respect, it was shaping up to be a solid end to a solid series. And then it actually ended. There's a lot I didn't like about the ending, which I will detail in the spoiler section. The first part of the ending surrounding the climax was fine. I didn't enjoy it, but I also can't say it was unexpected or even bad. But then we get into the wrap-up, and there's a lot that I hate about it. Don't get me wrong, it isn't bad enough to spoil my experience. Neither this specific book nor the series as a whole is ruined by the things I dislike about the ending. I still bought Caliban's War after I read this and will continue to collect the series because it is very good. I just wish they had stuck the landing a little better. It brought it from a 5 to a 4. That's the ultimate impact. This is also another book where I despise one of the POV characters. Tanaka didn't drive me quite as crazy as Melba did back in book 3, but I really didn't like her. She also introduces a bit of a tangle. See, there's kind of a content warning on this one, but it's a little hard to pin down. A thing happens that is very much a sci-fi thing, but the way it is described in the book, first by Tanaka and then by her therapist, sounds a lot like rape. It isn't rape, but maybe be careful if that's a trigger. There's also a lot of existential horror happening in this book. For me, it came on pretty slowly, which I think made it a little easier to digest, though I do think a piece of it that was suggested at the end didn't get enough follow-through. That's all I can really say without spoilers. If you don't like spoilers, now is the time to pause or close the video. For everyone else, let's talk details. I understand the crew wanting to give Teresa a taste of normal life. That's perfectly respectable. But to that end, they decide to enroll her in boarding school under the care of a distant relative, and I really didn't like this plan. I kept waiting for them to realize how stupid it was, but they never did. The problem is that while Teresa really could use a dose of normalcy, she's got bigger issues that tossing her into boarding school are only going to make worse. She very clearly feels as if no one has ever cared about her for her own sake, and she kind of thinks the crew is just trying to get rid of her because they don't care about her either. In the end, though I hate Tanaka, I do appreciate that she ruined this stupid plan. She shouldn't have had to, but at least we ended up in the right place. I was also astounded by how incredibly stupid Houston was in this book. She was Bobby's second in command when Bobby was still around to lead a war, and while she never struck me as a brilliant leader, I would have at least expected competence. Instead, she believes Tanaka when she says she'll leave their colony and military base alone if they hand over Teresa. I mean, It's not like Laconia has a history of being ruthless or telling lies, right? It was obvious that wasn't going to play out as she intended, but even I wouldn't have guessed how quickly and how thoroughly her stupid plan went sideways. The Rocinante makes a near escape and books it through the ring space just fast enough to avoid getting caught in the existential horror. Here I am once again forced to be grateful to a character I hate, because I'm not sure I would have forgiven this book if Alex's son and his family had been eaten by null beasts, and they only escape that fate because Duarte chases them away. It felt very anxious throughout these scenes. I didn't know how Kit was going to make it through the ring, and then Tanaka was conducting interviews with the people who were in the ring space, particularly those on Kit's ship. So I was sure she was going to get a hold of them and use them against the Rocinante. I was extremely relieved when she got called away before she could notice the connection. The existential horror is that Duarte has decided to turn humanity into a hive mind like the dead aliens. He's figured out that if he uses the collective consciousness of all of humanity, he can repel the null beasts, so he's taking steps to make that happen. This also serves as an escalation of his rule all humanity with an iron fist scheme. But I didn't understand what was happening at first. I thought it was just a momentary blip. They all experienced other people's memories and then went on with their normal lives, remembering experiences that they never actually had. It took a while to understand that they were still linked, still slipping into each other's minds with little to no control of it. Once I understood that, I spent a while thinking that might be kind of cool. You can just conference with the experts from across the universe at any time. Handy. But as the story progressed, they made it more and more clear how violating that experience would be. Then Kit's son has a little episode, and I took a moment to consider what a nightmare it would be to grow up in a world like that. Even assuming the model where everyone maintains their autonomy, which is by no means a certainty in Duarte's ultimate plan, if you never had your mind entirely to yourself, how would you ever develop a sense of self? Setting aside this awful thought experiment, we get to hang out with Elvie running her own little Omelas. If you've never heard of it, Those Who Walk Away from Omelas is a short story by Ursula K. Le Guin. I've never read it, and it doesn't seem like there's that much to really spoil, but I'll timestamp this if you really want to skip it. Though, to be fair, Elvie goes over it briefly in this book, so if it can be spoiled, it kind of is. As I understand it, there's a city called Omelas where everyone is happy. That is, everyone is happy except for one child who is suffering horribly. As long as this child continues to suffer, everyone else in Omelas will continue to be happy. Everyone is shown this child at some point, and while most people decide it's worth it, some people walk away from Omelas rather than be party to this torment. Supposedly this is supposed to be an example of utilitarianism, which I guess is true, but I feel like it takes it to an extreme. Generally, I'm on board with utilitarianism, which holds that we should do what provides the greatest good for the greatest number of people. For me, though, when I espouse utilitarianism, it's more a guideline for how to navigate choices and not a prescriptive edict which must be calculated and carried out. Basically, yes, we should have organ transplants because that is good for more people. No, we should not kill someone so their organs can save several people. That's bad. As for Elvie's Omelas, she's doing experiments with her creepy children, and it is very obviously having negative effects on Kara. She's not entirely thrilled to be putting a child, or at least a child-adjacent person, in this situation, but she reasons that this is their best chance at everyone not dying. She's willing to sacrifice Kara to save humanity. I kind of hate the concept of Omelas. Like I said before, it's utilitarianism taken to the extreme, which I don't agree with. Also, as far as I can tell, there's not really any suggestion of what might happen if you save the child, which I think is something of a failing. So you can imagine my delight when Amos comes into the scenario and essentially says, "Fuck Omelas, you're not hurting a kid." I really do love Amos. I wish he would die. Which of course brings us to the end. First, the part of the end that I can accept. They figure out that Duarte is in the ring station and go to confront him. Once they realize they can't get in, however, Holden does something drastic. In order to reconnect with Proto-Miller, who opened the station for him the last time, he injects himself with Protomolecule. This works a lot better than I would have expected, and he, Tanaka, and Teresa head inside to try to reason with Duarte. When we finally get there, Proto-Miller suggests that Duarte may not really have been Duarte for a while now, instead having been co-opted by the Protomolecule cocktail that made him weird. This is the existential horror that I didn't feel had enough time to bake. The idea that the Protomolecule might be puppeting him, which there is further evidence for a little later in the book, is kind of horrifying, but it's just sort of introduced and then discarded without much thought. At any rate, Tanaka and Duarte kill each other. Yay! But then Duarte is no longer holding back the Null Beasts, and everyone in the ring space is in imminent danger. Holden takes up Duarte's position, and he pushes them back. He then figures out what I've been assuming all along, that the Null Beasts are pissed because the ring space is perpetually fucking up their system, and they'd like it to stop. So the solution is to destroy the ring space, and everyone will be fine. Of course, in order to destroy the ring space, Holden will have to go down with it. This is the part I don't particularly like, but I have to acknowledge isn't a bad ending. In many ways, Holden dying to save the universe is the exact ending I always expected. Interesting side note, back when I was reading one of the early books, my dad kind of jokingly said something about the Leviathan. I don't remember what exactly he said, but my response was that I wasn't entirely certain what the Leviathan was supposed to be. I pondered it for a bit, but I never could quite decide. Was the Protomolecule and its attendant alienness the Leviathan? Or was it the Rocinante or Holden, both of which kind of became in that book? And now here we are at the end of the series with Leviathan Falls, and while I can mostly rule out the Rocinante, I'm still not sure. What do you think? Anyway, he says his goodbyes and tells everyone in the ring space to pick their system because it's going to be permanent. Here we start in on the things I don't like about the ending. Naomi says Soul System, but after a little thought, Alex says he wants to go to the system Kit just moved to and spend time with his son and grandson. Fine, good, that was my first thought when Naomi chose Soul System. But he goes alone. I know I'm not the only one who dislikes it when found families go their separate ways in the end, so I'm sure I'm not the only person who was frustrated by this. They spend so much time in this series talking about how close the crew is and how much they all feel like family and home and being so close to someone that you become like one being, and now we're breaking everyone up. I hate it. There was, however, one thing they could have done to make me totally cool with this division. I was still waiting for Naomi to find out about Philip. They confirmed at the beginning of the book, and I think repeat it when Alex decides to go, that she still thinks she killed him. If they had just thrown in a sentence to indicate she would finally be reunited with him, I would have been perfectly happy. But no, she likely goes to her grave, never knowing. Then we end with one final failure. There's an epilogue some long time in the future when one of the colonies has figured out super fast travel and is reconnecting with the other colonies. We see them make their way to Soul System, where they are greeted by Amos. Here we are, long past when everyone he calls family has died, and he's just there. It's not lost on me how absurd it is that I spent most of this series taking the assertion that Amos would always be the last man standing as a promise I would be angry if they broke, only to have it end with me rather displeased that they kept it. Still, I don't like that Amos is just stuck for all eternity. I will admit that he's probably the character best able to handle it, though, since he's not very emotional, and seeing everyone around him die isn't likely to hurt him all that much. It's not much of a consolation. So yeah, they're generally pretty small grievances, but they pile up right at the end, and it left me kind of unhappy. I'll call it a bad ending, but not the sort of bad ending that has me swearing off the series. That's all I have to say about Leviathan Falls. If you like this video, I hope you'll watch more in the future. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!